rates of Chinese investment, and I spoke to Rachid Mohamed Rachid, Egypt's Minister of Foreign Trade and Industry. I asked him about doing business with the Chinese and whether that was the right approach for Africa.
The challenge we have in Africa is that, first of all, we have to create an environment this time where there is a true partnership between the private and the public sector, which is the government and the business community, and they are jointly really working, including the NGOs, including the population at large. Secondly, which I feel is a very, very important point, is that we have to make sure that we can activate now and build on what we call South-to-South trade. The continent itself has to start really getting into business together, and we should see that the economical development of Africa is depending on what Africa is doing as a continent together. Because I find it hard to believe that any African nation on its own will be able to jump the continent in totality and then join the global economy without having really a proper and positive and active economy in Africa. And that's why I would like to see many of these projects, which are interregional, funded by China and by Europe and by the United States, again, in a self-interest mode here.
So is the G8, as far as foreign interest is concerned, is the G8 taking the proper approach to Africa's problems?
I think directionally, intentionally, yes. My worry and my area that I would be concerned about is implementation. So an area like debt relief as intention is fine, but we all know that if we just write off all the African debt, this will not do a lot of great help to many of the nations there. I think if that is more in the implementation used as a positive incentive to make many of these countries and many of these governments politically capable of taking some of the hard decisions, that is building institutions, building capacity, withdrawing subsidies, withdrawing market distortion elements, so it can create really an element of a market economy which is positive. Let
me ask you, of course, when we refer to Africa, we tend to refer to it as if it's one entity, and the reality is sub-Saharan Africa has some of the highest rates of poverty in the world, while Northern Africa tends to be in much better economic shape. Do you see a role for Northern Africa to play specifically in assisting sub-Saharan Africa to lift itself up?
Yes, definitely. I think, first of all, I agree that Africa, of course, it's one continent, but it has many, many countries and many different levels of development within that continent. Similar to Asia, similar to Europe, similar to other Latin America and even North America. The reality is that you need in every regional economy, you need certain countries to act as a pulling mechanism. And that is the same in Africa. And I'm sure that some countries in Africa will have a higher ability to leverage the economical development than others. And I think that diversity is an important element. If you take only, the poor part of Africa and say, well, they have to work on their own, I think something is missing in that equation here. I think we need to use the diversity of the economy and the diversity of the levels of development in Africa to create a model that can, benefit these poor countries faster, yeah.
Rachid Mohamed Rachid, Egypt's foreign minister, or Minister for Foreign Trade. Well, up next on World Business Today, they're going for gold by